so much room. I had all the room. Good morning, my friends. I'm headed to, you know where I'm headed. Try to get a paddle in. It's such a beautiful day. It's a little chilly. It's like around 70 degrees, which is cool for a summer day. Someone's driving my old car and I missed that car. 2007 Scion TC. Nothing fancy, but it was a fun little car. I loved it. Little 5-speed. Anyway, I digress. I gotta stop saying that. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to paddle today, even though I am paddle ready. Last time I was gonna try to go paddleboard. Look at these beautiful tall sunflowers. Cool. So pretty. Happy bees. Flower break. Last time I was gonna go paddleboard on my home time, I looked at my handy dandy weather app. I use Dark Sky, and it said there was a beach hazard statement and like 3 to 5 foot waves and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh man. So I didn't bring my paddle. I just went out there with a couple beach blankets and myself. And I went and sat on the beach for a little bit and swam. But when I got there, it was flat. The water was like perfect. And I was like, what? You lie. So again, today, beach hazard statement. But I'm going anyway because I looked at the wind speed and everything. And it's not a wind issue. The wind shouldn't be making it choppy. So, but sometimes it just is. You don't always know for sure. So, gonna find out when I get there, I guess. Can we just take another flower break? I always forget what these purple flowers are called. I showed them in a close-up in my last video because I love them so much. And then look at that hydrangea. It's just big, tall hydrangea bush. I love hydrangea. I don't know if it's like interesting to anybody else to look at these things in my videos, so I'm sorry if that's annoying. I just get really happy and excited when I see beautiful flowers on my walk. Hear a little jam on the way, you know, morning in Chicago. It's a really nice day. I love that shit. So I gave my notice, the L, every time. It's almost like I forget, even though I've lived by it. It's like, yeah, the L's gonna go by a few times a day, like a lot. I gave my notice. Sorry, there's a lot of noise. There's landscaping going on. There's all kinds of shit. And yesterday, one of the people in the office this is funny. So you're supposed to be assigned like a main manager person who you go to when you have issues. And because they're so short-staffed where I work, they didn't have anybody. So the main manager who like manages the whole account and has like a super fucking involved high-stress job was supposed to be my person because there was nobody else and he never reassigned me until after I gave my notice. My thinking is they did that because they thought somehow this other guy would be able to talk me into staying. I don't know if they thought that. But he pulled me aside yesterday. He's this young guy, definitely younger than me, probably in his 30s. And he was like, you know, so what's going on? And I'm like, it was kind of insulting, to be honest with you. Because it's like, what do you think, man? And it made me realize after talking with him, and he looked at me like I was an alien when I told him like the pay is insane. I was like, I'm making less than minimum wage. I realized this week I'm making less money than the people who unload my truck, like significantly less, which is wild. And those people are the same people that like go hide when it's time to unload trucks, you know? And meanwhile, I'm doing this dangerous job that's high stress. And I don't think that this guy who is supposed to be, you know, managing me, keeping me on the account possibly, I don't think he has any idea how low our pay is. Because I don't know. I don't know if like they're getting some different information from their higher ups or something. I'm like, because when I told him, he was acting like I was confused or something. I'm like, I know what my paychecks were. Like, they were bad. I told him I might have to walk away from trucking and go back to bartending for a little bit because I got into so much debt doing this job, which is true and embarrassing, but true. You know, because you spend money on things you need for the truck and it's not what you expect. Well, stop for a quick dog pet break. And I spoke with the dog owner. He's like, oh, it's rough out there today. So I guess it's not going to be a paddle day, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. At least I can go hang out by the beach for a little bit. And at least I'm not going to waste the energy carrying my board over there because it's kind of a hassle, and no need to do that if it's a chop fest. Well, it turns out the beach hazard statement is correct. Although this is not the most choppy or wavy conditions I've paddled in before, and technically my board is a paddle surf hybrid, so you could conceivably surf in this water, but the way these waves look and the way they tend to be when it's wavy or choppy like this on Lake Michigan is like, it's these short waves, and so you can try to surf them, but ends up being more annoying just trying to stay on the board. It's not like the kind of waves you get in the ocean with the same longer cycles. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but that's kind of what it seems like. But it's really pretty and it's perfect for meditation. I like to sit and do breathing exercises. I have my little meditation mat kind of laid out now, and I'm just gonna sit there and do some breathing exercises and enjoy the sound and the smell of the water, because when it's choppy like this and kind of windy, it smells almost like the ocean, and it's like super soothing. So it's a really gorgeous day today, and I'm definitely still gonna get in the water. I'm just gonna take a quick little swim. I thought I would take a quick minute to film. I'm at a rest stop, and I'm on one long run today, so I don't think I'm going to have to be in a race, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to give me a second load. I'm not having a great week, partly because yesterday I had an incident, and I officially do not have a clean record, which is really frustrating. And it happens to the best of us, but it still sucks. I think I'm gonna maybe make a little drawing or something, like a rudimentary stick figure type drawing to illustrate what happened, because I can't really show pictures because I think it would probably reveal where I work if I did that. But long story short, I was doing a backing maneuver, and it was the first time I had attempted this approach. It's not like it was advanced or anything like that, but it did force me to do a little bit of a blindside back, but it wasn't anything crazy, and I had all the room in the world. The long story short is that I damaged my hood on one of those yellow poles, which if you're a truck driver, you know the yellow poles, the notorious yellow poles. I've been jokingly telling people that one of those yellow poles jumped out and hit my truck. And what's so frustrating about it is I had made the approach and I went to correct it because I was like, oh, I'm way too close. Because I was getting close and I was like, oh, I'm about to hit that. I better move and get farther away from it. And I had so much room. I had all the room. I thought I had gotten far enough away from it, and I attempted it again. And there's two big mistakes I made. Number one, I didn't get out and look, which they preach like a mantra where I work, and probably plenty of other trucking companies. It's not a big deal to get out of your truck and just look, because even if you think you know, and that's the thing, you get kind of complacent because you're like, no, I can visualize. You get used to it when you back a truck over and over all day long, not over and over all day, but multiple times a day, say 3 to 6 times a day, depending on how many stops you have, or maybe more than that. You get a certain familiarity with how much space you need, and you can get a little bit complacent. And so I had adjusted myself thinking I was good, and I reattempted the maneuver, and I hear a ripping sound because this hood is made out of fiberglass, and it just ripped a chunk. And it was still attached, and luckily they were able to sort of stitch it up so I didn't have to switch trucks while they wait for a new hood to come. replace the actual hood, which is crazy. That'll be the third hood on this truck, by the way, because it was in a rollover accident before I had it, and so that now it's on the second hood. This truck might be cursed. No, I'm just kidding. But what was annoying about this is part of the reason I made the mistake, which is a common thing for me, and I don't know how many other people are like this. I think we all get in our heads too much when we know people are waiting. It's easy to do. I really don't like to keep people waiting. It really bothers me, and I get impatient with myself. And there was a yard driver waiting for me, and the yard driver was sitting watching me and waiting, and this frustrates me because I take responsibility. I made the mistake. It was 100% my mistake. I could have just been like, he can wait, he's fine. I could have pulled forward more because there was so much room. I was basically in a situation where I had to back and drop off an empty trailer, and there are normally like trailers parked facing the bay of where I would drop off a trailer, but there's basically two rows of trailers that are kind of facing each other, and the one is docks, so they're backed into docks where they get loaded. But there were like 5 or 6 empty docks, so there was just this huge amount of space, and then the yellow poles on my driver's side. So technically I could have pulled forward enough and let him go behind me, or he probably could have gotten behind me if I had just gestured to him like, go ahead, or stop, just shown that I was waiting, and whatever. But he waited for me, and he watched me do it, and he didn't alert me in any way that I was about to hit this pole, which kind of irked the fuck out of me. I was like, you saw this happening. You could have easily, if he had just, because when you're driving a truck and you're backing, you're extra sensitive to alerts. So if you hear a horn, you're gonna like stop what you're doing right away. I know I would, because I would assume that means I'm about to hit something, you know? You're like more sensitive to cues, I think, and more reactive to cues, because all it takes is a split second to take your foot off the gas or like just stop what you're doing. This guy just like watched the show. He just watched it happen, and then I looked over and he didn't even really react. So then I get out and look, I take pictures, and like, fuck, I stopped for a second, took a couple deep breaths, before I called my boss, I backed into the spot because I was able to correct it and straighten out and back in. And then the guy comes and starts to grab the trailer next to the empty spot, the spot where I backed my trailer. And he's like, oh, that sucks. And I was like, you saw it as it happened, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, it's my fault, but like, why didn't you honk at me or something? And he like literally looked at me for a second, turned around, and got back in his little truck. And I was like, what a dick, man. What a dick move. We're all out here having our own unique struggles, and it wouldn't have been hard for him to like help a brother out, you know, but he chose not to. So unfortunately, that's just the way it goes sometimes. There's some great yard drivers where I'm at. Some are super cool, and then there's a couple who are not as cool, and this guy was one of those guys. So I called my boss. He was super cool. You know, he's kind of corporate-y by the book, but he's a really nice guy. And he's like, first thing he asked me, are you okay? I'm good. I'm just a little upset. He's like, it's okay. You know, it happens all the time, da-da-da. Then I had to call the claims department at my company, and they were like, the guy was super nice, but he's like, this isn't even the first of these calls I've taken today. The yellow pole thing is like a constant issue for people. So that doesn't make it okay. It was avoidable. And I think that's what makes it the most frustrating, is it was a very minor thing, but it still requires a whole new ass fucking hood. Yeah. And it's also within my last 2 weeks because I gave notice. So it's like a dumb time for this to happen. And it still goes on my report as an incident. So kind of shitty. And then on top of it, I just haven't been sleeping well for what feels like forever. I don't remember the last time I had a good night's sleep, and it's been really hard to like stay focused and feel motivated, and I'm kind of crampy today, and that's a thing that happens sometimes, and I'm just driving. But upsides. Let's look at the upsides. The weather is gorgeous. Well, it was rainy, but it cleaned off my windshield, which it really needed. So the bugs are gone. I ran out of the good window cleaner that I had in my truck, so thank goodness for rain. It really helps sometimes. And I have a nice long drive, which is what I always want. I've got like 2 hours between each stop, which is perfect. So I'm blathering on too long here. There's a lot more I want to talk about, but I will leave it at that for now. Woe is me. I made a dumb mistake. And learn from my mistake, and when in doubt, get out and look. I've had older drivers, experienced drivers tell me that. And real quick before I end this, I texted my dad pictures, and he was like, he's like, oh, you poor thing. He was like, a year ago, he said something about how he was turning around in a space big enough, like the size of a football field, and he took out his fairings, and it's like, he's like, I got 20 times your experience. It happens. And it's like, yeah, it does happen, but it's still a fucking bummer. If you can avoid it, take the extra second, take the extra step. Give your brain the opportunity to see it even better by getting out, and then you have even more information to work from. And don't do the dumb thing. Don't be impatient. Just take an extra minute. It's worth it. Just wanted to add one more thing I didn't say in that last video. I just arrived at my first drop today. That one of the things that sucks about having an incident happen like that is, at least for me, I think I'm already more of an anxious person than I like to admit, even though I do all these things to, like, all these practices. Like, I do breathing exercises every single morning, Wim Hof breathing every day, no matter what, and yoga, and, you know, redirecting my thoughts and all this other stuff. CBT, baby. It's good stuff. After having something like that happen, I can't just like shut off the psychological aftermath that occurs. You have to sort of process it. So I definitely am experiencing heightened anxiety, and that's partly why I didn't sleep that well last night, I think. And also the whole caffeine cycle. Like, I'm in the cycle of not getting enough sleep because of anxiety maybe, and then drinking caffeine to compensate because I'm tired and I'm driving, and then that heightens anxiety. It's like a bad cycle. But I am much more nervous right now backing. It was kind of tough to start driving again yesterday after that happened, because it was such a minor thing, but it just makes you realize, like, even if you're a strong person and you're like good at talking yourself through things when they happen, there's still like a little bit of a haze of like fuck that sort of wafts around you until you get past the event enough for it to not feel it so much. But like, I'm definitely feeling more anxious around yellow poles, I'll tell you that much. And it's like such a small thing. No one got hurt. It was like nothing inside the truck got damaged. It was literally just a chunk of the hood got damaged, but it's like still, it messes with you. I just pulled over for a quick minute because I wanted to share this sunset with you. I'm going to show it to you from a different angle. This is one of my favorite things about driving out in the country, which I don't really like to pull off the road too much, but there's almost no traffic out on this road tonight. But it's just a breathtaking sunset, seeing animals out on the road. So here's this sunset, check it out. Morning. I am waiting for my load to be ready, and it's Saturday, so the warehouse is always behind. Our warehouse is really not on the ball. It seems like they're not on the ball. And weekends are always the worst, and I'm required to work weekends as a newer employee at this job. 3 trailers in the last week have had pallets that were either stacked poorly or not wrapped in shrink wrap correctly. So the whole pallet has fallen over by the time I get to the destination, and it's made a huge mess in the trailer, which causes delays and means that the trailer has to be washed out when it gets back. And it's just not surprising at all, because it's just like more of the same kind of stuff. So this will be a little bit of a complaining segment, just FYI. But I want to let people know like some of the bullshit that happens in these jobs that you deal with. And one of the things that I have been warned about from the beginning, but it's like something I'm never good about at jobs, is that where I work, and I wonder if it's like this at other trucking companies, so please let me know in the comments. If you don't carefully monitor everything that you have driven, like if you don't write down the job number, the mileage, and like the amount of money you expect to get for the stop pay and all of that, and document it, and then follow up and make sure when you get your paycheck that it was included in there. If you don't actually like go back and double check everything, they will just not pay you for things. And it's like basically you have to do all of the work that you have to do as a driver, but then you also are responsible for making sure that they actually pay you correctly, which to me is crazy and infuriating, because it's like we have so much to think about as it is, and just like it points to that idea again of the hypocrisy of like we care about safety. Well, if you care that much about safety, then you shouldn't overload the drivers with more shit to think about, like maybe we'll pay you, you better check. Like, fuck you. Like, fuck you. I'm feeling kind of disgruntled today because it's like day 3 of no hot water in their showers again, and it's frustrating, but a lot of our drivers just go to a nearby truck stop to shower during the day. If you've been following me for a while, you know I like cold therapy, so I always try to reframe it in my head. But after, yesterday I drove 500 miles and I came back and I was like hoping that somehow the water had been fixed, but I knew it wasn't, and it wasn't. It was a cold shower again, so that was kind of a bummer. That's another thing I was going to say. So I don't know, I'm sure other companies get away with this too, but our company gets away with like skimming miles off of us. So the way that they do that is they give us a route in our tablet, and it's a certain number of miles, and even if you end up driving more miles than that, you don't get paid for any miles outside of that. But I always use my Garmin because the route that they give you avoids tolls at all costs. So it'll take you on these crazy meandering routes, it'll take you on country roads, it'll take you on these crazy like detours that don't make sense and end up taking more time, so you lose money that way. So for example, yesterday's route showed in my tablet as like 462 miles, but I put it in my Garmin and I follow the Garmin 90% of the time, because that's going to give me the better route, the fastest route. And it's usually good about telling you where trucks can and can't go, although it's not perfect, even though it's a trucker specific GPS. I don't understand that. But Garmin said 500 miles, and I ended up following Garmin for the most part until I get like close to the destinations where the other GPS is actually better a lot of the time. Actually, I have a third GPS that I use. If you guys haven't heard of the app Truck Maps, I definitely recommend that. It's great for looking at the destination in a satellite view. And yeah, you can do that on Google Maps, but this one is trucker specific. So it'll enable you to select, like you can look at the satellite view and then select the truck entrance that you want it to take you to, like as you're navigating your route. It's really quick. I'm not very good at these kinds of things. Like I'm not good at trip planning or navigating or anything. That's why I use 3 different GPSs and I try to like take the best 2 out of 3. Like I'm always happy when I'm following one and then the other ones gradually start to line up with it and I'm like, okay, they're all 3 in agreement. This is good, But I use that to check which entrance to go into at the stores I'm going to, because sometimes if you go in the wrong entrance, it could be very, very bad. Like you will not be able to get out without calling a cop, and I don't ever want to be in that position if I can avoid it. So, yeah, I drove an additional 40-something miles yesterday that I am not getting paid for. And did I go out of the way in a way that was like excessive? Absolutely not. I just followed a better, more efficient, smarter GPS. But my company decided somehow that the route I took was shorter than it actually was. I imagine that this is a very common practice in the industry. So all of these things have reinforced for me that I'm glad I'm leaving this company, and it also reinforces to me that like I have to really do some thinking and decide if I want to continue in trucking, because unfortunately these are kind of industry standards, and unless you can afford to have your own truck and not be getting skimmed by the company that you work for, because that's what they're doing every day. They're skimming you one way or another. They're accidentally not paying you for stuff and hoping that you don't notice, and they're doing it like a little bit to all employees all the time, and you have to go back and like tell them to correct your own pay. Like, how does that make sense? Tell me another job where you do the job as you were trained to do, as you're expected to do. You'll fulfill all of your expectations, but then you have to hound the management to actually pay you because they're trying to skim, and they're pretending it's that, oops, we missed stuff, it falls through the cracks. No, you didn't. This is an intentional part of your business model, and you just hope that people don't follow through. I've been told this since I was in training, like make sure you write down the load number, that you do this, and I'm so bad about that stuff, and I'm just trying to focus on all these other things that I let the most important thing, the pay, fall through the cracks, because I'm just like, well, I'm not going to be here that long, and I'm just going to assume that it's fine and whatever. Who knows how much money I've lost at this point by having that dumb mentality, but I've never been good with money, and this is a fucking real significant case in point. So I feel dumb, and I feel dumb admitting it, but just letting you know, trucking companies will squeeze you, they'll scam you, and they'll smile to your face while they do it. Just a little outro for you. I am on my home time and it's been pretty nice and chill. I've spent a fair amount of time at the beach and I'm going back to the beach this evening to hang out with my best friend for a little bit, so that'll be cool. So just going back tomorrow, and then Friday and Saturday I'm working, and I will, well, tomorrow might be today when this video comes out. I will be starting training at the new job on Monday. I told a group of friends about how I was starting training. They're like, you're going to be like the most well-trained trucker on the road, because it's like the third time I'm doing training for a job in, you know, how many months? 8 months, not even. I have mixed feelings about like starting up again. It's just like, you know, but it's not going to be the same like lengthy process of training as it was the last time, or both of the last times. So that's good. But I've pretty much come to a decision, I think, based on just the way my body reacts to the time spent behind the wheel, which is, and also the feelings I have when I observe all the older truckers who are disabled, which is a large number of them. And I know that I keep saying this, but like even more so now, I am not going to stay in trucking for too long of a time because of that. I'm having a really hard time recording this video because I keep getting interrupted, because it's just a really noisy, busy time of day on this alley, and I want to stand outside because inside my apartment I usually end up getting interrupted, you know, when roommates coming through, whatever. But long story short is I've already started to kind of formulate an exit strategy from the trucking industry, even though I'm about to start another trucking job, and I intend to stay there for some duration, but I'm not sure for how long. I'm not in a huge rush to leave the industry. I don't want to. I had initially committed in my mind to doing a year, but what's starting to happen is recognizing that on the days that I actually do get long enough durations of driving between stops where, you know, the next job that I'm going to be at, I don't expect it to be like this one has been, where it's like a bunch of short runs that are really annoying and you can't make money because you're getting paid by the mile. So you have to keep stopping and doing deliveries where you get detained for long periods of time, but you don't get paid because it's not long enough. So I'm expecting at the next job to have longer bouts of driving. And on the days I do have longer bouts of driving, I end up with so much more pain from the time spent sitting. So it's like this catch-22. And then I had actually had a lengthy conversation with the recruiter about like, well, maybe I will go on to the flatbed account. And it's almost like I'm in denial that like the issues I had physically with securement before, where I had all this neck pain and stuff, because securement takes a good deal of strength, and I'm a strong person, but I'm a small person. And I think that has a lot to do with it. It's just like, there's a reason why you don't see that many women doing these jobs, and it's not because we can't, but it definitely helps to have like a larger stature. Like I kind of wish I was built like one of those rugby chicks from my high school. Like big, freaking burly, kick anyone's ass kind of size. I'm not built like that, so it doesn't exactly work in my favor to be like 5'4" and 130 pounds, you know, when you're trying to do these types of tasks. So I feel frustrated, and I don't want to say defeated though, because I've learned so much from this experience. I'm not done yet. I don't have like an end date in my mind exactly, but I have like sort of an idea that's percolating of what I want to do next. But I really enjoy trucking at the same time. I love driving trucks. I love learning about them and having the different experiences that I have on the road, and I love seeing the scenery, and I haven't even gotten to see much of the country at all. I've only seen some Midwestern states. I haven't even gone out west. I haven't really gone far east at all. So I don't know what's going to happen exactly, but I hope you'll stay with me, because I intend to share it and talk more about my experiences, and you know, I'll keep you in the loop. And I start training at the new job next week, so I'm eager to see how that goes. The recruiter made it sound like it's all awesome, and that's a recruiter, so you gotta wait and see for yourself. But I'm hoping that the duration of my training won't be too long, and I'll be ready to hit the road in a short period of time and actually hopefully start making some money. We'll see what happens, but I'll keep you posted. Please like and subscribe if you like this content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.